Welcome, and thank you for attending my paper entitled Century-Old Electromechanical Secrets Revealed, ISIS, the Zither-Playing Android. For ease of production, I've decided to let you focus on my slides and narration, and then we'll meet up face-to-face during the Q&A, if that's okay. So let's get started. In a 1919 newspaper article published in the San Francisco Call, Dr. Cecil E. Nixon, her creator, explains, quote, "I started making ISIS in 1903. Considerable progress was made until the earthquake and fire of 1906, after which I did little more on ISIS for a year and a half. I had her completed by 1908, and in the 11 years since have improved and perfected her until now she's as highly educated as I could wish." End of quote. For more than a century, the focal point of her legacy has been her uncanny ability to play any musical selection requested of her, needing no assistance from her presenter or the use of pre-programming to accomplish this remarkable feat. Less than a year after her completion, on flyers such as this, she was being billed as a mysterious musical sensation, capturing the public's attention and receiving national media coverage for the next 4 decades. As we can also see, the hype surrounding her mystery was further stoked by a reward of $10,000 offered to anybody solving the mystery or proving ISIS to be a fake. In subsequent years, several attempts to solve the ISIS mystery received ample media attention, including this one by Harry Houdini in 1923, which states, quote, "The handcuff king will attempt to solve the mystery of ISIS. Dr. Cecil E. Nixon's almost human image, who plays any tune requested of her on a zither," end quote. Following Nixon's death in 1962, ISIS was acquired by Bill Harrah's Pony Express Museum in Reno, Nevada, and was placed on display as little more than a dormant sleeping beauty, surrounded by Wild West artifacts for more than 20 years. Along with a strange as it seems poster depicting her as the miracle robot who at a spoken command plays any of 3,000 selections on a zither, unquote. But it was also during this time that a research effort was conducted in 1977 by members of the Musical Instruments Society International, which in part devoted itself to solving the ISIS mystery. But while the article documenting this effort and published in their journal chronicles the life and times of ISIS and Dr. Nixon in great detail and devotes considerable attention to describing ISIS's external visible mechanics, apparently access to the internal gadgetry that actually makes her tick remained hidden from view, since their lustrous conclusion simply states, quote, "The method of her programming is not so clear. While we can think of several ways ISIS could be programmed, why spoil the fun with speculation?" So with that in mind, and knowing there'd been no subsequent attempts at solving the ISIS mystery, I contacted her current owner, John Gahn, master illusion builder and collector, to discuss launching a new inquiry, and received a warm response, inviting me to visit him and ISIS in LA and have a fresh look for myself. Upon my arrival in November 2018, I encountered this promising sign at the car rental lot located on the corner of Isis Street and Manchester Boulevard, which seemed an omen indicating a fortunate visit, and I was certainly not disappointed. In fact, the very next day, I found myself standing next to the Egyptian goddess I'd longed to meet, Isis, the Zither-Playing android. And as it turned out, it was really our only date, but at least the lighting was really good. After taking a few cursory photos of Isis and also her customized zither veneered with Brazilian rosewood, Jean directed my attention to the non-functioning apparatus typically offered for inspection by audience members prior to every Isis performance. Of special importance, since they're used to convince onlookers that there's no trickery involved and that Isis acts of her own volition, relying solely on mysterious powers brought from antiquity, compared to human cognition and perception. Beginning from left to right, there are these faux mechanics claimed to be tuning pegs and rods that help her work, plus the tubes where she receives her commands. Then there are the middle mechanics, comprised of more than 200 pulleys and 1,100 feet of wire. Finally, on the right, there are faux mechanics consisting of rods, solenoids, and the rest of the clockworks. Following this inspection, the presenter typically walks back to the middle mechanics and innocently conceals them by closing an outside door. And on the right, you can see the middle mechanics that are now being concealed. Because next, the presenter moves to a crank located near the android's knees and turns it several times around, claiming its purpose is to get some of the parts moving. But what's really happening is that the middle fake mechanics are being completely collapsed, which creates a new void and allows the operator who's been hiding inside the whole time. Well, John's opening the runway, and there I am crawling in there. It allows the operator inside to unlatch the control board and lower it down until it rests horizontally atop the collapsed mechanics. In this close-up of the control board, we can begin delineating its features, starting with the 2-note scales applicable to the zither Isis plays. The top one matching the strings of the chord section consisting of 6 pre-tuned chords, and the bottom one matching the melody section comprised of 2 partially chromatic octaves. Adjacent to these, we find 2 copper buses, an important component of the Isis electrical system, each energized with negatively charged battery current, which is eventually routed to complete a circuit at 2 associated electromagnets. And that happens by way of movable control arms like this one seen here. And here we see both control arms deployed, which also serve the purpose of controlling the movement of the hands and picks as they move across the strings up above, which is seen represented on the graphic to the right. These images feature the hands with pick mechanisms attached, plus a graphic depicting their movement in relation to the chord and melody strings. And finally, we can focus on the brass-pointed string markers tacked to the melody scale, these being essential for successful operation of the playing system, since they correlate with the exact location of the zither strings above. Lacking these finely calibrated markers, an operator would have no chance of playing musical selections correctly. So how is this assemblage of gadgetry manipulated to produce recognizable music? In this pictured example, the tip of the control arm is positioned to the left of the E string marker and then pushed into contact with the copper bus, thus completing the circuit to an electromagnet which deploys the pick next to the E string above. Then, while maintaining this contact, the arm is slid to the right along the copper bus past the E string marker, which effectively moves the deployed pick across the string, thus sounding the note. And here's a close-up of the pick in deployed position between the strings. Having sounded the E string, pressure on the control arm is released, thereby breaking the circuit to the electromagnet, which retracts the pick to a position above the strings, where it can travel unimpeded over the strings and repositioned in preparation for sounding the next note. And here's a close-up of the pick in retracted position. So all that I've explained so far is fine and good, except that my example only relates to playing a series of melody notes. But just imagine what's required of an operator attempting to play a melody line plus chord accompaniment at the same time, whereby each hand is working independently, moving in different directions at different times. This is where the skill of the operator really comes in, having a significant influence on the virtuosity of any particular ISIS performance. Well, let's see how it all works. Here's a video clip of ISIS in action, performing before a live audience in London in 1989 on a show called The Best of Magic. And one viewing suggestion I can recommend is to listen for the clicking sounds heard each time ISIS plays a note, which are the sounds of the pick being deployed and then retracted by the pick mechanism. After which I'll address your questions. Enjoy the video.
I think that as a magician, that I've got the best job in the world, because each week I meet and introduce some of mine and magic's greatest heroes. The finest creator of illusions in the world today is with us now. Please welcome, with a legendary magical creation from the turn of the century, John Gorn with Isis. Thank you very much for coming on. This man really is one of the greats of magic today. He creates the illusions for all the greatest illusionists all over the world, but he also recreates and restores illusions from the past. And what he's got here is one of the masterpieces from his collection. She looks a very exotic creature, John. What's her name? What's she do?
Well, from the past, this is Isis. And this is from a really marvelous magician from the turn of the century named Professor Nixon. Obviously, she plays the zither, but
yes.
The most unique part of this is she will play any tune you ask for on the zither, all by herself.
Any tune that I ask for?
Any tune.
Presumably that must be a tune from the turn of the century?
Yes, of the era.
Right, well, we'll be coming on to that in a moment. First of all, can we have a little guided tour to the ladies' parts,
Well, of
do you
course.
think?
Starting down here,
Yes.
we have these little tuning pegs here.
Yes.
And the rods that make some of the motions work in here, and you can see the beautiful craftsmanship here. These tubes here are the most important things. This receives the command.
And this is beautiful. You restored all this yourself?
Oh, yes.
Right.
And then all the way to the back there, you can see there's at least 200 pulleys inside there and over 1,100 feet of wire. Then over into this section here, we have the spring barrels and little electromagnets, solenoids down there, and the rest of the clockwork.
Clockwork solenoid. So that must presumably means this, if there's solenoids, there must be batteries or something.
Yes, very early batteries.
I had no idea there were batteries at the
Yes.
turn of the century. So in restoring this, you haven't added anything.
Oh,
There's
no.
no computers.
No
There's no radio control.
none of that.
It's just little cogs and little wheels and little batteries.
Yes.
And you've just restored it to how it was.
Yes.
Well, I can't wait. Is she in the mood to do a little bit for us?
Well, let's find out. Isis, are you with us this evening? I think so.
I think so too. Are you nervous? What are you doing there? What's that for?
Well, we have to wind up different parts here to get her going.
Right. So how does she tune up? Does she tune up or something first?
Well, we probably should tune her up here. Let me get the bell here.
Yeah.
Ah, right on, middle C.
I've got a whole set of bells
Yeah,
here.
grab a couple of bells there.
Does it
and,
matter which one I pick?
No, just a couple and try
Any
it out.
bell into the tube?
Yes.
Right. That's right.
Sounds good.
Try another one.
I think she's ready. Isis, are you ready? Good.
I don't believe this. Look, what I've got here, it's called the Book of 1,000 Songs. And it's, it's what it says, really. It's a book of 1,000 songs. And every single one of these is different. And I know already which one I want to choose.
Good, pick
I
one
want to
out.
choose Two Lovely Black Eyes. Is she going to know that?
Let's try it.
So what do I, just say it into there?
Yes, just say it right to it.
I feel such a fool. Isis, will you play Two Lovely Black Eyes?
There she goes.
That's absolutely wonderful. That is wonderful. That is amazing. We've got two volunteers from the audience here. Would you just like to come in? Would you mind? Now, you don't know anything about this. I mean, we all know that. I'm just going to ask you to stand there and there. There's the Book of 1,000 Songs. Would you just open it any way you like? Just the first time, just open it any way you like. There's two songs there. There's, what are they? Home on the Range, reading upside down, and Hearts and Flowers. Which one would you like her to play first?
Hearts and Flowers.
Hearts and Flowers, so Home on the Range is yours. Hearts and Flowers it is. Isis, please will you play Hearts and Flowers? It just is. And yours was what? Your choice?
Home on the Range.
Home on the Range. Do it yourself.
Well, wait a
Speak-
minute now. We should check. Isis, do you mind if we try one more? Okay.
Go on, have a go. Have a go.
Home on the Range.
It is. It really is, isn't it? It really is Home on the Range. I just think that's amazing. Absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, John Gorn.
And Isis.